Okay, let's talk a little bit about Lechem Mishnah and Shaloshodas. That's the two topics that we're going to touch on this today. Again, Lechem Mishnah is both of these came up in those who do Daf Yomi a couple weeks ago, a week or two ago. But Lechem Mishnah is based on Psukim. Right, the Gemara in Masechah Shabbos and Daf Kuf Yud Zayin tells us that a person is chayav to be botzei on shtei kikaros, on two loaves, as it says lechem. Here's a stapler if you want. As it says lechem mishnah. There's a machlokas rishonim and mefarshim whether that is really an achronim. Is that a real mitzvah daraisa or is it an aslachta? The Aruch HaShulchan. We're not going to do all the sources. But look on the bottom of source number 5. The nearer the zeu din Torah lo aslachta ba'alma. The pasuk in Parshas Beshalach that mentions lechem mishnah, a double lechem, that's a real miyutar, and therefore it's a real limud. It would be a din da'oraisa. Not everybody agrees to that, but that's what the Aruch HaShulchan says. The Magen Avraham takes it's not as much of a chiyuv, but that is the halacha. That's quoted in Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch and Reish Ayin Daled in source number 7 tells us hotzeya al shtei kikaros shlemos. A person has to have make hamotzi on 2 complete loaves. Right, you hold both of them, and one cuts the bottom one. That'll I'll be Kabbalah. On Friday night, you cut the bottom one, and all the other times you cut the top one. That is, we're not going to get into it now, but once it's here, I'll mention it. The Achronim wonder, if you're supposed to cut the bottom one, isn't that a problem of ein ma'avir and ala mitzvos? Because if you're holding both chalas, how do you cut the bottom one? The top one is closer to you. That's why the Taz says you should hold the bottom challah a little bit closer to you. So that's why if you're going to cut the bottom one, so in that way it won't be a violation of ein ma'avir and ala mitzvos, and you'll still be able to cut the bottom one. Okay, why do we have 2 chalas? So you know zecher l'man. It says lechem mishnah, but it's also zecher to the man that fell double on Shabbos and Yantif. I said on Yantif also. Really, it's a machlokas midrashim whether the man fell double on erev Yantif. We paskin that we need lechem mishnah also on Yantif as well, both on Shabbos and on Yantif. We paskin en lecharchila even on Shaloshodas, as we will see soon. Okay, but a couple of points within lechem mishnah. Number 1, there is a very interesting discussion about women. Are women obligated in lechem mishnah? And this is a very lamaisa question because very often the husband is in the dining room. He's about to make a motzi, and he's waiting for his wife. And his wife, like motioning the man to do it. And he's like, Right, this whole give and take between the parties involved. But does the woman have to be there for lechem mishnah? And that is a discussion. So the Mishnah Berurah quotes as if uncontroversially in source 11. They were also in the Nes Haman, and therefore they're included in Lechem Mishnah. So that is not so pashut that reason. Why? Because we know the Gemara tells us in 3 places that women are obligated in mitzvos because of the principle of Afein Hoya Boso Anes. They were also included in the miracle. Where did the Gemara have that? By Dalet Kosos, by Mikra Megillah, and by Neiros Chanukah. By those 3, it says Afein Hoyu Bo'oso Hanes. Rabbeinu Tam extends that to Lechem Mishnah. Afein Hoyu Bo'oso Hanes. What's controversial about that reason? How is it different than Nes of the Mun? So some say that, is that really the same kind of Nes as the others? The other Nisim was, there was a tzara we needed a salvation from at that moment. Right? Mitzrayim, we needed to go out at that second. Chanukah, we needed to be saved. Purim, we needed to be saved. That's a Nes where we say, Afein Hoya Bo'oso Hanes. But Lechem Mishnah? Okay, there was the man, and it fell double, but is that the same type of Nes? The Gemara doesn't say it by those. But that's Rabbeinu Tam's extension. That's question 1 on Rabbeinu Tam. Right, that's what some of the Achronim point out. The Ramban, I give you 2 from the Ran, but really it's the Ramban also. The Ramban and the Ran say, they call Rabbeinu Tam and they say, Ein Sarech. You don't have to say women are obligated in Lechem Mishnah because of Afein Hoya Bo'oso Hanes. You can say because it's included in the Gemara in Brachas Daf Chaf. The Gemara in Brachas Daf Chaf Mabei says that women are chayav b'kiddush hayom. Why? because of Zachar v'Shamar. All los aseis they're obligated in, so all aseis. Say most Rishonim, that includes all mitzvahs of Shabbos. Zachar v'Shamar is not just about Kiddush, which is explicit about in brachas, but it's about Lechem Mishnah, it's about Shalosh Shudas, it's about all mitzvahs of Shabbos. Women or men are equal because of Zachar v'Shamar. And that's what the Ran says right here. Ve'en tzarech. Shebechol ma'aser Shabbos is v'isha Shabbos v'yafina Zachar v'Shamar u'bechlal zeh havi kol chiyuvei mitzvos. Kol chiyuvei mitzvos. Fine, that is the Ran, that is the Ramban. There is a difficult tshuva of Rav Shlomo Kluger, which I gave you on the next page, Ha'elaf L'cha Shlomo, where he quotes to try to. There must have been a practice in his time, 150 years ago, the Gedolei Adar, that women were not makbid about Lechem Mishnah. Women were not makbid about Lechem Mishnah. So he writes, well, we know there are two reasons for Lechem Mishnah, right? Two reasons for women Lechem Mishnah, either Avinai Boso and Eser Beinatam, or the Ran and the Ramban that, it's included in Zachar v'Shamar. But each one, says the Rav Shlomo Kluger, has a little difficulty, right? Like we said, Avinai Boso and Eser, maybe this is not the appropriate nace to apply that principle to. Maybe Zachar v'Shamar only applies to Kiddush. So says Rav Shlomo Kluger, listen to this, because each reason of the Rishonim has some problems, so that's why maybe the minhag is for women not to be makbid about Lechem Mishnah in our day, because each of the reasons has a problem. That's what he says, to defend the practice. The Achronim, Rav Avad Yosef, says about that tshuva. I don't understand. No, all Rishonim agree that women are obligated. The machlokas is about the reason. So now you're going to come tell me each reason has a problem and therefore they're going to be patur? That can't be. Everybody says women are obligated in Lechem Mishnah. The machlokas is only about the reason. So that is a chiddush gadol. Again, he's not saying what to do. He's just explaining the defense of what some women do. But either way, lamaisa, women are obligated in Lechem Mishnah for one of two reasons. Okay. The next point, though, is a fascinating point. And the next 5 minutes is a really cool thing because it's what I like to call back pocket, Divrei Torah. Because if you ever have to speak anywhere on a Shabbos or a Yantif, this is your vart. Because it's a 3-minute vart that has to do with Lechem Mishnah, which applies to every Shabbos and every Yantif. So here it is. The Vilna Gaon is quoted as saying that there is never a contradiction between Nigla and Nistar. And if we think there's a contradiction, it's because we're misunderstanding one or the other. Because Nigla and Nistar work well together. If we're misunderstanding, it must be because we don't understand the Nigla or don't understand the Nistar. So we have a problem. Because our Gemara in Shabbos that we just see in Daf Kuf Yud Zayin, it's source number 20, it says, Yatav Lechem Mishnah, Shtei Kikaros. But there's an Arizal. There's a Zohar that the Arizal quotes 12 Chalas. Heard of that? 12 Chalas. The Shari Tshuva quotes from the Arizal, Masad al Shulchan Yud Beis Kikaros Ktanos. 12 Chalas. So 12 Chalas. You might see some bakeries that are very deep, that have make breakaway Chalas, and they make 12 little parts to the breakaway Chalas. So the question is, though, 12 or 2? 12 or 2? Stira. So how do we answer that? So there is a Gemara. If you look in the Gemara in Shabbos Kuf Yud Zayin, source number 20, B'Shabbos Chayv Adam L'Tzor Shtei Kikaros, T'chsev Lechem Mishnah, Amar Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi says, Chazina leRav Kahana do not katarti batzachada. Rav Ashi used to hold both chalas and cut one of them. Amar Liktu Ksiv. He says, you gather the two, you don't have to eat both, you hold two and you cut one. And then you have the following line. Reb Zera havi batza akula sherusa. Reb Zera was Botseya Akula Sherusa. That's a hard phrase to translate. What does that mean? What did Reb Zera do? Rashi, he cut big pieces of challah. Batza Akula Sherusa. He cut big pieces so that people won't be embarrassed. He cut big pieces of challah. That's what it means, Batza Akula Sherusa. And that's what it quotes in Shulchan Aruch. You should cut big pieces of challah so everybody's happy. But the Rashba has a different shot to that line in the Gemara. Batza Akula Sherusa, what does that have to do with the context of the Gemara? The previous line said that Rav Ashi said that she saw Rav Kahana held two and cut one, and now Rav Zera cut big pieces. What does that have to do with anything? The Rashba says, what Batza Akula Sherusa means? He cut every challah that was put in front of him. That's how the Rashba understands the Gemara. The nearly the Batza Al Kol Kikaros Kamar. The previous Amora said that he held to and he cut one, and this is a machlokas. Rabbi Zera cut both chalas. Rabbi Zera cut both chalas. That's the Rashi Pshat of the Gemara. Says the Vilna Gaon. Really, the Zohar did not say you need 12 chalas. It's a mistake of the publisher. Really, it said you need 12 ches with a little line, with a little smidgik. And it meant 12 chatichos or 12 chatzoin, 12 halves. If you have 2 chalas at every meal and you cut both chalas in half at each meal, how many halves do you end up with? How do you end up with? You end up with 12 halves. Every meal you have 2 chalas, you cut them both in half, so you end up with 4 at each meal. So the nigla and the nistar work perfectly together. You need lechem mishnah, you need 2 chalas at every meal. And if you cut both chalas at every meal, like the Rashba says, you have 12 halves altogether on Shabbos. And that's what the Zohar meant. That you should cut both chalas like the Rashba. Did anybody do this? So the Shulchan Aruch does not quote the Rashba, but the Marshal and the Shloh HaKadosh and the Mishnah Berurah quotes. It's a good idea. The first time I saw this, I was Shana Aleph 30 years ago. Oh my gosh. Right? I was Shana Aleph 30 years ago. I was at my Rebbe's house. And I saw that he cut both chalas. I'm like he had 2 chalas, and he had a challah and a pita, and he went right through. I'm like, why did you do that? He says, the Rashba. I'm like, what are you talking about? So he explained it to me, but wasn't collated until much later, but this Rashba. And the Mishnah Berurah says, if you don't want your wife to get upset at you, doesn't literally say that, but if you don't want your wife to get upset at you, you're going to cut 2 big chalas. You're only 4 people at the meal. You're wasting. So have 1 big one and 1 small one. Have a pita and a regular challah. So that each meal you could cut both, go through, be yotze the Rashba. That's what the Mishnah Berurah says, l'chadchila. Again, if you have 2 big challahs, you don't have to, the Shulchan Aruch does not quote the Rashba. But this is quoted. You see in the Ma'aser Rav, the Ma'aser Rav quotes this, the Mishnah Berurah in source 24, the Marshal and the Shloh were not like the Rashba, and the Vilna Gaon. Fine. That is, and I gave you the Taz about holding the challah close to you. That was that. Okay, that is all a couple of points relating to Lechem Mishnah. Try to have whole. If you don't have whole, try to put it together. If you only have, what happens if you have 1 challah? Is it better to cut it in half and then have 2 pieces? At least before you make hamotzi. Or no, you have 1. So if it's shalom, it's shalom. Keep it shalom. But that is all some ideas related to Lechem Mishnah. Okay. I was just trying to think. Was there something else about it? I don't remember. But that is all Lechem Mishnah. Let's talk about Shalosh Shudas a little bit now. You know the packet that you have? Shalosh Shudas. The Gemara says, right, there's a chiyuv to have 3 meals on Shabbos. Chayav Adam. Kamazuz Chayav Adam Lecha b'Shabbos. Shalosh. Rabbi Chidka says 4. We don't pass him like Rabbi Chidka. Rabbi Chidka says 4 because the pasuk says in Beshalach, Ichlu Hayom. It says the pasuk with the word Hayom 3 times in the pasuk. So we paskin, that's 3 meals. Rabbi Chidka says it's 3 during the day, besides the 1 at night. So we don't paskin that way. But 3 meals on Shabbos. And the Gemara has amazing things to say about people who ate 3 meals on Shabbos. They're saved from Dina Shel Gehenim. They're saved from Melchemes Gog uMagog. Right? There's a lot to say about people who are makpid about the Shalosh Shudas. The Gemara even has on Kuf Yud Ches, the Yehei Chelki. Rabbi Yossi says, I want my chelik in Olam Haba to be with these 10 people. The people who are makpid about these things. People who daven vasikin and people who take in Shabbos early and finish Shabbos late, go through a whole list of items. And the Marsha says they're all things that people aren't so makpid about. And on that is people who eat 3 meals. So even in the days of Rabbi Yossi, the Tana, and people weren't as makpid for Shalosh Shudas as they should be. But again, one has to be very careful about eating Shalosh Shudas. Again, this time of year, it's not as hard. You know, it's a long day. You know, you can even have milchiks at Shalosh Shudas usually. But again, it's something that one has to be very careful about. Okay, let's get into some of that. Oh, just first, why is it called Shalosh Shudas? Sudash Lishit means the 3rd meal. Shalosh Shudas is like just a combination of Shalosh Suudos. Shalosh Shudas. Right? If you say it quickly, like Shkoyach. Yashar Kochacha. Right? Shkoyach is meaningless. Right? Shkoyach. But Shalosh Seudos really doesn't mean anything. It's from Shalosh Seudos. But what does Shalosh Seudos mean? 3 meals. So it's not 3 meals. It's the 3rd meal. Suda Shlishit. What is shalosh su'udos? Why is it 3 meals? So the Achronim, the Bali Musar say, the first 2 meals on Shabbos, it's not nikar that you're doing that for Hashem. You're hungry, so you're eating. You're hungry Friday night, you're hungry Shabbos day. Shalosh is often you're not hungry. You eat that for Hashem. Once you eat that meal, that's Megala that all 3 meals were for Hashem. That's what we call, that's also a back pocket, right? That's also why we call it Shalashudis, Shalosh Su'udos. That's what they quote in the name of the Chidah. I gave it to you in source number 9. Sha'idesha Adam Madchik Atzmo. L'kavet Shabbos, Lechol Ot Su'ud Generado Ba, Marash Kam Shara Su'udis Achal, L'chavarayo. The Shulchan Aruch says you have to be very careful to eat Shalashudis. He doesn't say that about many mitzvahs. Yehi Zahir, Ma'od, L'kayim Shudah Shlishit. Be very careful to eat Shalashudis. And therefore he says, let's say it's a winter Shabbos, and you're about to have dessert by lunch. And you already know that you might not eat Shalashudis. Skip dessert. Don't blame it on halacha. Just don't eat so much by the second meal. Right? We have to leave room. All you need is one kizayis. What's the biggest raya? That it's all in your head. Because right after Shabbos, right after Havdalah, all of a sudden, people could have 3 slices of pizza. No problem. No problem. Shalashudis, I can't. 1 piece of challah. What? Right? So it's in the head. 1 slice of challah, everybody could generally fit. And one should push themselves to make sure that they have at least a little bit of challah. Okay, the time for Shalashudis, we paskin, again, it's a machlokas Rishonim, we paskin is late in the day on Shabbos, after Mincha time. There are some Rishonim, Rabbi Rosner says, chas v'shalom, you're not allowed to eat then, you have to eat earlier. Why? Because at that time of day, that's what, Gehenim is closed on Shabbos. Right, there's a respite. So towards the end of Shabbos, that's when the neshamas are getting ready to go back. So you shouldn't be eating at that time. That's what Rabbi Rosner says. We don't paskin like that. Rabbi Rosner is quoted in our Reb Psachim in the Tosfos. We paskin that no, that's the best time to eat. By the way, what zman do they hold in Shemayim? What zman of Shabbos? Like when does Shabbos end in Shemayim? Like according to the Gra, Rabbi Rosner, how long does, so the Baal Yisod B'Shor Avoda says, whatever Shabbos we held in this world, that's the Shabbos we get in the next world. We hold a long Shabbos down here, okay, then we got a long Shabbos up there. So we have to do our best. Whatever, we're setting the dates, we're setting the times for our Shabbos. But either way, we paskin that we eat it late in the day, late in the day on Shabbos. Good. There is a tour. Did I give you the Rambam and the tour? Yes. The Rambam. Look at the Rambam. The Rambam says in source 20, you should be koveya each of the su'udos of Shabbos on wine. And to have 2 chalas. And also on Yantif. The Rambam also talks about in source 21, you should make Kiddush before you have Friday night meal. You should make Kiddush before you have Shabbos day meal. The Tur understands this Rambam in source 20 that you have to have a chiyuv to make Kiddush at Shalashudis. Because the Rambam's lashon is Sorach Likvoa Suda Layayin. So doesn't that mean Kiddush? But the Kesef Mishnah and the Rabbi Yosef Cairo says that's not what the Rambam says. The Rambam says you have to be Kovea Suda on wine. But he only quotes 2 halachas of Kiddush. So therefore, says the Shulchan Aruch, you could have wine. It's a nice idea to have wine during your meal. But there's no chiyuv of Kiddush. And that's why the Shulchan Aruch said, the Shulchan Aruch usually tells you what you need to do. Here the Shulchan Aruch says what you don't need to do. 24. Ein sarach lekadish b'suda shlishis. You don't have to make Kiddush. Al sarach litzvo al shtei kikaras. You should have lechem mishnah. The Mishnah quotes, it's a nice idea to have wine. Because that Rambam. But there's no Kiddush. Right, and that's what other Rishonim say as well. So you should have wine, lechem mishnah. Good. Another much discussed halacha. What do you have to have? What do you have to have for Shalashudis? What type of food? What level food? So the Shulchan Aruch quotes 4 opinions. 29 on the top. Tzorach lasos of a pas, bread, and some say chamesh mini dagan mizonos, and some say fish or meat, and some say fruit. Just in case you didn't know what he really thinks, the Svara Rishona Iker. The first one is the main shita. So yes, is it different than the first 2 meals? Yeah, the first 2 meals there's no shita that says you could have anything else other than bread. The third meal can, according to some shitas, not have bread, And that is why Bidi Eved, if you forgot Ritzeh, you do not repeat it at Shalosh Shudas, because there was a shita that you didn't have to have bread. You have to repeat by the first 2 meals. But it's clear from the Shulchan Aruch that you should have bread. And the Aruch HaShulchan says, the Rif, the Rambam, the Rosh, the Tur, the Shulchan Aruch all say you need bread. There's no major league group that could go against that group. And therefore the Aruch HaShulchan says, those who don't take Shalosh Shudas seriously, it's a problem. Right? This is a mitzvah, and therefore you have to make sure that you do your best to be able to fulfill it. So you might have heard in your life one time that, you know what? I learn instead of Shalosh Shudas. I'm a very spiritual guy. So the Torah is my food. You ever hear that? Some shuls have shiurim between Mincha and Marav on Shabbos. That doesn't mean that the rabbi doesn't believe in Shalosh Shudas. That means that the rabbi thinks that this is the only time people are going to learn the whole week, and if they have the shiur before Mincha, they won't come. So that's fine, but it should be on the shul bulletin then, eat Shalosh Shudas before you come to shul, before Mincha. But is there any day like this? So it's not quoted in Hilchos Shabbos. It's quoted in next year. Erev Pesach Shechal Yis B'Shabbos. Next year, you have the Purim Mishulosh, and you have Erev Pesach Shechal Yis B'Shabbos. Always the same year. So Erev Pesach falls out on Shabbos. You have to finish Shalosh Shudas by 9 o'clock in the morning. Right? It's one of those. So in that context, Shalosh Shudas is like impossible. Like, what do you do? All the poskim discuss it. We'll have shiurim about this by the Shem next year. But that's where the Magen Avraham quotes from the Shlach Kadosh, who quotes from Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. He used to learn instead of eating Shalosh Shudas. So a couple of points. Number one, that's not quoted in Hilchos Shabbos. It's only quoted in this impossible situation where what are you supposed to eat Shalosh Shudas? Right? You have to finish it in the morning. So there you could learn instead. Number one. Number two, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai didn't do half the mitzvos because he was learning every second. The Gemara calls them Torasa Umnaso. Keep getting rayas from Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. So for those two reasons, we generally do not rely on this. You have to eat something. Okay, bidi eved. Even though you're talking to, sometimes my kids would run in and then they're running out. I'm like, Shalosh Shudas. They're like, I'm not washing. I'm like, okay, just take a cookie. So you have to but at least learning we generally do not rely on, and therefore one should be careful. What about women? Same obligation as men. Same obligation as women. Not everybody's aware of this. Sometimes in some shuls, men are sitting in eating Shalosh Shudas in shul. The women are home with the kids. Women have the same obligation as men in Shalosh Shudas. One has to be very careful about that. We don't paskin like the Rambam. We don't have Shalosh Shudas on Yantif. That's something that 3-day Yantif, only 6 meals and not 9 meals. But we don't paskin like that. We have Mishnah. We have having wine at the meals. But that's some ideas of Shalosh Shudas. But one should be very careful and try to be makpid about all of these halachas in this situation. There is an Aruch HaShulchan, just to end with this. The Aruch HaShulchan says, what do you do just because we're here? The Erev Pesach Shechal Yis B'Shabbos, what do you do by Shalosh Shudas? Aruch HaShulchan says there's no chiyuv of Shalosh Shudas that day. He says, just like Yom Kippur Shechal Yis B'Shabbos. Yom Kippur and Shabbos don't have a chiyuv of Shalosh Shudas. The same Hashem that gave you Yom Kippur, Shalosh Shudas, gave you Yom Kippur. So here too, you have to eat Shalosh Shudas in the afternoon. And here you can't, because you can't have matzah, you can't have challah. And the Aruch HaShulchan is very makpid to have bread, and you can't have bread. So it must be there's no chiyuv of Shalosh Shudas that day. So generally we rely on that lechatchila, but again, that's one day every couple of years that it comes up. But generally we should try to be as makpid as we can for Shalosh Shudas. Yeah.
Why can't you just say eat potatoes, meat, or whatever?
You can, but the Aruch HaShulchan is, if you remember before, he said, Atil lisin es adin. He's very makpid to have bread.
It's better to have nothing
No, I guess you can have, but he might say, because you can't do the real mitzvah, there is no chiyuv. That's what he would say. Okay? Shkayach Eli. Great to learn.